Welcome to our show, Elevating Stories of Climate Equity. I'm Akosua Goosby, Community Resource Coordinator at Elevate. And I'm here with Yami Newell, Associate Director, Community Projects at Elevate. Hi, Yami.
Hey, Akosua.
How you doing this evening?
Awesome.
Great. I cannot complain. Our episode today is a driving force through electrification and sustainable transportation. We will have Jackie Montes de Oca, Director of Buildings and Electrification from Elevate, Obai Reed, CEO from Equiticity, Jose Hernandez, and Vatia Hill from the Community Resource Team at Elevate. Kicking us off today, we have Community Resource Coordinator Anthony Powell with the Director of Building Electrifications at Elevate, Jackie Montes de Oca. We're excited to hear about Jackie's work.
Hi, my name is Anthony. I am a Community Resource Coordinator at Elevate, and today we have Jackie Montes de Oca, Director of Building Electrifications, and we're just going to have a great conversation with her and answer some questions I know people will get so much education and benefit from. So how you doing today?
I'm good, Anthony. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. You're doing important work out there, and we're so glad to have you. So my first question for you is, what are some of the key benefits of electrifying buildings?
Yeah, I can talk about that. So the basics of electrifying buildings is really just removing fossil fuels and replacing them with electric fueled appliances. And with that, we get carbon emission reductions, as well as if you're paying a gas bill, electrification allows customers to manage one less utility bill by removing natural gas, and that can save on service delivery charges. We know gas prices are rising. We can also see indoor air quality improvements because we're removing those combustion appliances like gas stoves and furnaces and hot water heaters. And a lot of times those are located in closets or close proximity to living space. We know we spend 90% of time indoors, most people. And so we're removing appliances that often emit a wide range of air pollutants. Another benefit is that the heat pump technology that is a part of electrification functions as both heating and cooling. So we're able to add air conditioning in homes where they might not have it. And that can improve safety and indoor air quality, especially for at-risk populations. Often cost savings can be seen, especially if we're doing electrification as part of a larger comprehensive building retrofit, which is what we think the best approach. And then if we're talking about equitable electrification, we're ensuring that that electrification is not increasing energy burden and that we are incentivizing the technology so that we can bring resources and investments to homeowners and renters.
Thank you. So can the electric grid handle a widespread shift to all electric buildings?
So this is a tough one. I will say the easy or simple response is no. The grid cannot handle a widespread shift to all electric buildings, say if we did everything tomorrow. So it's going to take some work. The grid needs to be cleaner and more modern. We have to consider electrification as a comprehensive piece of a larger puzzle. So it's just one of four main components of decarbonization. That is electrification, energy efficiency, renewable energy, and manage electricity load. So it's just one piece of the puzzle. With more and more people using electricity instead of gas as the world moves towards like electrification and decarbonization, it's true that the demand for electricity will go up. And to manage this, we can shift energy use to different times of the day to reduce impact on the grid. We can reduce carbon emissions, as we're doing that. And, an example, as is smart grid programs such as ComEd's hourly pricing, which Elevate works on. So people have, the option to take advantage of pricing programs like that as in line with electrification. I'd say we also can advocate and support policy like CEJA that creates and advocates for a cleaner grid, facilitates, the components of decarbonization that I mentioned. That legislation sets bold goals for utilities to make the grid more affordable, clean, and equitable. And so, we can get behind and stay aware of how big transitions and decisions are being made about the grid, because we know it will take work. But the thing that I'll end on related to the grid is just that energy efficiency should always be done first. We know it's a component of decarbonization, and when we do energy efficiency first, we are able to size equipment smaller, we're able to use less energy, and when a building has been weatherized, for instance, with insulation and air sealing, HVAC equipment can run more efficiently, and again, be sized properly. So I guess I do have one more thing. The renewables can offset the costs and offset the added electrical load. So there's a lot of things that will go into making this work well.
What are the challenges to transitioning to all electric buildings?
Yeah, it's not simple. We can't just go in and throw heat pumps in all buildings and then walk away and say we're done. We know that electrification doesn't always mean energy savings. Often we're, again, adding air conditioning, and sometimes we're increasing the load, and we may have to upgrade the electrical service. That costs money. But this is why it's important to incentivize this work when we can, especially when we're trying to reach historically underserved communities. Why it's important that we analyze the utility usage and estimate the cost impacts upfront before we determine which properties are an ideal fit for electrification. The other challenge is that the technology is relatively new, especially for cold climates, or particularly for cold climates. I mean, heat pumps have been around and used in other regions, but for the Midwest region in particular, there aren't a lot of contractors as familiar with the newer technology that manufacturers have been coming out with in the last 10 years. A lot of people are reminiscent of electric heat in the 1980s and 90s that were put into a lot of our buildings, and had the experience of paying a lot for energy usage when it was all electric. But air source heat pumps specifically have come a long way over the last 10 years. And so we know there's a little bit of a learning curve, but we know that they work, and we know that the technology can function at negative temperatures. And so there's just education and learning to be had around that. Again, there's not a huge network of contractors, and I will say we're actively working to try to connect contractors to manufacturers on their equipment, training, and other resources we can provide them to especially support BIPOC contractors in this industry.
Is there more importance around electrification versus renewables?
I wouldn't place more importance around one or the other. I think that they have to work together. When we're putting electrification upgrades, we're upgrading equipment from gas to electric. We're now able to connect that to the solar panel and offset the costs. Whereas before, if it's much easier when they work in tandem.
Yeah. So we're now 2.5 years into the pandemic, and we ask this question to everyone. How has the pandemic affected your work?
Yeah, as many industries, we have to follow COVID safe work practices and adjust, and that may cost more or take more time. We may have to cancel or move site visits when people don't feel well, whether that's staff or contractors or clients. So we just have to take a little bit more time to meet people where they're at and respond, listen and respond. But the biggest issue has really been with supply chain and rising costs of labor and materials. So this has caused huge delays in installing heat pumps and the related technologies. We know everything is more expensive than it was 6 months or a year ago, and those costs don't seem to be going down. And so it's even more important that we're leveraging multiple funding sources to try to incentivize owners and multifamily building owners, homeowners, to do the work, but help bridge the gap, because it's costly right now.
Yeah. So we have one more question. It's a consumer question. Consumer asks, what are the steps that I need to take to decarbonize the building that I live in?
Yeah, as I was talking about earlier, I think the first step that people can take is energy efficiency. We have access to utility programs here, at least in Northern Illinois, to do that. And you can call the utility program, you can work with Elevate, to get an energy assessment or work with a weatherization contractor and upgrade your building envelope with air sealing and insulation. You can upgrade your lighting to LEDs. You can eventually swap out gas appliances for electric appliances. We would, recommend if you have brand new equipment, we're not going to tell you to go throw that out and put in new stuff, but prepare to put in electric appliances when you're expecting your gas appliances to reach their end of life. So if you know that your appliance is 10, 15 years old, start researching, start talking to contractors, reach out to us and find out about what equipment you can put in so that you can plan ahead and take advantage of any resources that are out there. I would also recommend people look at Illinois Solar for All as a resource, talk to solar installers who can work with you, determine if solar is going to be an option. That's again a piece of the puzzle. And then personally, I like to think about bigger picture ways we can be in tune with the world around us, connected to climate change solutions. So holding companies accountable for emissions, supporting local policy and elected officials that are providing solutions for climate change, supporting companies that divest from fossil fuels rather than invest in them. And there's, a ton of online resources. Elevate's put out a blog and a couple things on our website. I really like the Rewiring America website. So shout out to them. I feel like they've got some nice resources for homeowners around electrification. And just stay tuned because we're learning a lot. We have a lot to learn, and we're excited to be working on it.
Great. Everything sounds good. I'm so happy that you're doing this work in the communities. It sounds like people are really benefiting from them, and I'm glad that we're a part of it as a fellow elevator. Thanks, Jackie, for being on the show today. Thank you for your work, and we're gonna give it back to Yami and Akosua in the studio. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elevate is always here to help break down the facts on complex issues. Let's take a look at the video to explain decarbonization.
When you think of the causes of climate change, you probably think of fossil fuels, which create air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. Fossil fuels can also be found in buildings, which often use natural gas or oil as the main energy source to heat and cool homes. A boiler, gas stove, hot water heater, or furnace that burns fossil fuels in your home create harmful greenhouse gas emissions like carbon dioxide that harm our health and the environment. The solution is building decarbonization, which is the process of reducing or eliminating the emissions that contribute to climate change from a building's energy sources. So how does building decarbonization work? The first step is to make the building as energy efficient as possible by using less energy to operate. For example, adding insulation and air sealing, which makes the building more comfortable and saves money and energy. Another important strategy is electrification. One example is replacing your boiler that burns natural gas with a heat pump that uses only electricity to heat and cool your home. Once a building is all electric, it's important to choose clean, renewable energy. Electricity can still come from fossil fuels, like coal, so we want to use electricity that comes from renewable energy, like solar energy. You can also make a difference by shifting energy use to different times of the day to reduce the impact on the energy grid and reduce carbon emissions even more. And there you have it. These building decarbonization actions are critical in the fight against climate change for everyone, and to help keep buildings safe and affordable for the people who use them.
Up next, we have Obai Reed, CEO of Equiticity. Thanks for joining us, Obai. It's so great to have you on our show.
The pleasure's mine. Happy to be here with you all.
Likewise. Can you tell us a little bit more about Equiticity and how you decided on that name to represent your initiative?
Sure. Equiticity is a racial equity movement operationalizing racial equity by harnessing our collective power through research, advocacy, programs, and community mobility rituals to improve the lives of Black, Brown, and Indigenous people in our society. We are a national racial equity movement. However, the vast majority of our work is concentrated in Chicago, and the vast majority of the work we focus on in Chicago is concentrated in the North Lawndale neighborhood on the west side of Chicago. We're agnostic with respect to sector and or policy area. However, with limited resources and limited capacity, the sector we are the most focused on right now is transportation. Equiticity is a play on two words. Most people see it and think that it's equity and city. For us, it's equity and electricity. Just like electricity requires a physical infrastructure to be transformative, so does equity require a social infrastructure to be transformative in our neighborhoods and our cities. Equiticity, power plus equity is greater than.
Wow, that's really phenomenal and very powerful stuff. Looking at your organization's guidelines, you describe the importance of understanding equity versus equality. Can you elaborate on how that coincides with your vision?
Sure. One of the challenges we face in our society is the relatively small number of people who really understand what equity is. And one of the most common mistakes is that people conflate equity with equality. Equality means everyone has access to the same resources. That's not even true in our society. Marginalized people do not have the same access to resources that privileged people have. So that's not even a concept that's accurate. However, people still think that equity is equality. Equity means we distribute resources in a way that those who need the most receive the most. It's not about equal distribution. It's not about achieving equal equal outcomes. It's about equitable distribution. We are flowing resources to the people who are in the greatest need of improved life outcomes. And as a result, we anticipate that we will achieve equitable outcomes in our society.
That's really important, Obai, because a lot of people don't know the difference, and it's important to lay it out for everyone's understanding. Moving on, you have these events you do every Friday. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, we host what we call community mobility rituals. Here in North Lawndale, we do our full suite of rituals. It includes, on a weekly basis, a Friday night ride series and a Sunday morning walk series. In addition, on a monthly basis, we do a public transit excursion, a group scooter road series, and an open streets festival series. At a citywide level, we do a walk series and a ride series in partnership with the Chicago Park District. We call these rituals because they have some elements in common that lend themselves to being ritualistic. One, the rhythmic schedule, a ride every Friday night, or a walk every Sunday morning, or a public transit excursion every first Saturday. There's a rhythm to the schedule, and that is the most important element to making these ritualistic, because what happens when that rhythm is present and easy for people to understand, like every Friday or every first Saturday, people begin to fit their lifestyles into the rhythm of the ritual. And that means they're starting to come out on a regular basis. So now people are seeing faces, that's learning names, they're connecting with each other, and that helps increase socialization in our neighborhoods. Just a couple more elements of these rituals. One is a disruption of the status quo. Sometimes when we're doing rides, we'll take the street. We'll take the street, sending a signal to ourselves and others that we own this space now. And it's also signaling that there's something wrong in our society. Structural, systemic, institutional racism must be eradicated. We're not just going to go through and live our lives like everything's okay. No, there's a problem in our society, and we are doing the work to dismantle structural racism, remove racialized inequities, and improve life outcomes for racially marginalized communities. And then just one more I mentioned that makes these ritualistics is the development of shared customs. Here in North Lawndale, we do a weekly ride series every Friday night. And one of the ways we communicate with people is we put a right fist in the air when we're greeting someone, when we're riding as a way of acknowledging people, and people return that right fist. And we've been doing that for many years with our partner here in North Lawndale, boxing out negativity. So now when I'm walking around the neighborhood or I'm driving through the neighborhood, I put a right fist in the air and I get a right fist back.
That's awesome. Well, we only have one last question. How has the pandemic affected your work?
Yes, so we don't have a physical office space. We all work remotely. And at the start of the pandemic, there were two things that happened that really adjusted how we operate as an organization. One is the social isolation that was happening in our communities. And two, we started to see an uptick in violence in our neighborhoods. So because of those two things, we accelerated our work. We started doing more rituals to give people a safe outdoor activity to engage, to, connect socially in a way that's safe. We were deeply concerned about COVID, of course. However, it was outdoors. We still required people to mask up. We still did social distancing. So we did it in a way that was safe. It was that socialization that we think was needed. And we felt like we could have an impact on reducing violence because now people are engaging, connecting with each other. And there is research that shows when people trust each other more at the neighborhood level, we'll have an impact on reducing violence. So our work accelerated through the pandemic.
That's great. An awesome way to create community by disrupting pandemic isolation. Now,
Yes.
Obai, we have a consumer question. Are any of your events or initiatives focused in the Auburn-Gresham neighborhood?
That's a good question. Let me think about that. I don't think we have any rituals that are planned in Auburn Gresham. We do have a ritual later this summer at Hamilton Park, which I don't think is too far from Auburn Gresham. We don't have any rides scheduled in Auburn Gresham. We may have some, no, I take that back. We'll likely have some either this year or certainly by next year as a result of a partnership that we've recently established with Main Street America and their interest in doing rituals where there's Invest Southwest corridors, or they have strong partnerships with community-based organizations at the neighborhood level. So while we don't have anything planned as of now, there may be something that we're doing this year or next year in Auburn Gresham.
Awesome. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today, Obai, and telling us all about Equiticity. Now here's a fun summer video from our time in the community.
It's always so great when our team gets the chance to meet community members and to hear from them. I'm happy to welcome back Vatia Hill and Jose Hernandez from the Community Resources team. It's so nice to see you two.
Happy to be here. I'm excited.
Welcome.
Yes, thanks for having us.
Welcome. Thank you both. Our first question is for Vatia. Can you go over some quick summer tips on how to save energy and keep building costs low?
Yes. The first thing that we suggest is managing your thermostat. And it's hard for people to, turning your AC a little higher or lower. The higher you can elevate it, no pun intended, you can save on billing. But we ask people to keep their thermostat around 78 degrees. and use your fan. If you have a fan, listen, I use a personal fan sometimes because I'm not interested, or if you have a plug-in fan, because that's actually does help save, reduce costs, your electric bill costs. And when you use your curtains, close your blinds, little tips like that. We all do understand that there's a bit of a crisis going on around managing a lot of things around energy. So, but those are some tips that you can do at home just to help with your bill, just a little bit maybe right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Vatia, for those tips. We've been having some extremely hot weather this year. Are there any updates regarding the dynamic pricing program, Jose?
Yeah, definitely. We understand that extreme weather and other outside factors have made dynamic pricing a lot less predictable. But there are a few tools available to help you understand and better plan your usage if you do participate in ComEd's hourly pricing, which is their dynamic offering. The first one is hourly pricing alerts that notify you when electricity prices are trending high. You can sign up for those alerts through your My Hourly Pricing account, and you can receive them either through phone call, email, or text message. So those are really useful. Another great tool is their real-time hourly pricing dashboard, which is available on ComEd's website, as well as their mobile app, and that lets you track the real-time hourly pricing to help you really understand when is best to use energy. And then finally, I always suggest if you do have any questions regarding your bill, or whether you want to know if dynamic pricing programs are a good fit, you can reach out to a support associate at 888-202-7787. And also, it's really important to note that regardless of your pricing program, as Vatia mentioned, practicing good energy habits and making sure that you're being as efficient as possible is a great way to save energy and help reduce costs.
Those are some really great resources, Jose. Now, back to you, Vatia. Outside of weather tips, are there other concerns residents need to know about?
The only concern that I really have is people paying attention to how they're using, in their homes, because I think there's a pest control issue right now that I thought you were gonna you have more information about.
Well, it is pest season here in Chicago, and one thing that I always do like to highlight is that when you do air sealing, it's not only preventing you from having less air leaks in your home, but it also helps reduce the amount of pests that can actually get into your home, as well as pollen. And both of those are big health concerns, especially if you do have existing conditions. So that's something that I would like to highlight.
That's
Yes,
awesome.
absolutely. I just had an incident with a bat. So
A bat?
yeah.
Yikes.
Yes. So when you do those things, you have to be careful. Pests, mice, all those things, they come up when you make those adjustments. Yet you still have to do them, and it's important that we have that information out there.
How can people reach you if they want to know more about your resources in education?
If you have any concerns or would like to learn more, please reach out to Elevate's Community Resources team at 833-204-1992 or email us at communityresourcesteam@elevatemp.org. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Elevate Community Events.
And see us out in the field when we're out there in your neighborhood. Come stop by and say hi and let us know what your needs are as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for all of these wonderful tips. And we would like to thank all of our guests this week. Obai Reed, CEO of Equiticity, Jackie Montes de Oca, Director, Building Electrification at Elevate, Jose Hernandez, Manager, Community Resources at Elevate, and Vatia Hill, Community Resource Coordinator at Elevate. Thank you to my wonderful co-host, Yami.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone at home. We hope this program has given you some valuable information. See you again soon for our next episode of Elevating Stories of Climate Equity.